Hi, happy Tuesday, everyone. It's Fisha Jenkins, and I am excited to be here with you this evening on Let's Talk EQ. For those who will be watching the replay and those who will come in, just a brief introduction. Again, I am Fisha Jenkins. I am a certified emotional intelligence practitioner and also an expert in the area of domestic violence. And here's the thing, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and it's also Emotional Intelligence Awareness Month. So I come here throughout the month and I have a conversation around emotional intelligence. Why? Because I believe that it is so important. It is important in the world of business, and it's also important as a primary prevention tool for domestic violence. And so, what is emotional intelligence? Well, it is a set of social and emotional skills that influences how we see ourselves, self awareness. It also influences our ability to cope with challenges, our ability to identify emotions in others so that we can make the best decision in relationships, and how we develop and nurture those relationships. So emotional intelligence is extremely important. In fact, the more I research about it, and I know that here on LinkedIn that you see several times a day different articles about the importance of what we call soft skills and emotional intelligence. And so being able to develop those skills around self awareness, how we manage ourselves, our ability to have empathy, and overall talking about relationship skills such as embracing diversity are extremely important. And so I invite individuals to come in and to talk about those skills that surround building one's emotional intelligence. And here's the thing, I've had the opportunity for about the last 10 years to work with organizations, nonprofits, and specifically working with those in the area of law enforcement, educators, healthcare providers, recognizing that individuals who are working with people, especially, and here's the thing, we're always working with people, how important it is to have those emotional intelligence skills. And over the last 2.5 years, we're on the other side, it appears, of our pandemic. One of the skills that comes up around emotional intelligence is optimism. So I want to focus this evening on optimism. And I had the opportunity to meet a gentleman by the name of Eric Aroca. And as we had a conversation, I thought, you know what? This guy is the epitome of optimism. In the dictionary, under optimism is Eric Aroca's face. Okay. I kid you not. I kid you not. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and prepare to bring him up. Let me just share a little bit about Mr. Aroca. Eric is the founder and president of the Aroca Group, a speaking and training company with a mission to build organizational cultures that last by improving leadership, communication skills, and identifying values true to your brand. After starting his career in corporate America, he is now entertaining audiences nationwide for association markets and corporate events. He captures your attention and draws you in with humor, intertwines it with masterful storytelling and motivating spiritual anecdotes, then boldly challenges you to do and be better. It is his ability to relate and connect with everyone he comes in contact with that allows him to be such a captivating motivator. And he is a family man. He is married to his high school sweetheart, and they have been together for 32 years. Now, I'm going to say to be married for 32 years, you got to have some emotional intelligence going on. I'm just saying. All right. So without further ado, please help me welcome Mr. Eric Aroca. Hey, Eric, how are you this evening?
Hey, so good. Thank you so much for having me, Tisha. This is great. And I'm sorry that it's my face you see for the word optimism in the dictionary. This is all I got.
Not at all. Not at all. And here's the other part of that. You are always so well dressed, and we're going to talk about that as well, because I think that also has something to do with emotional intelligence. That
Yes,
part about how you see yourself. And
yes.
definitely, it's been said that I believe within the first 30 seconds of meeting someone, that people tell a story about you. And the story they're telling about you is a story, I believe, that you tell yourself, which is how you show up.
I agree.
So diving in, you and I had the opportunity to talk, and the backstory around that is that we are both members of the Houston chapter of the National Speakers Association. You are currently the treasurer, yay, and you are president elect. That part.
Yes.
So, excuse me, I'm gonna let you know that I'm dealing with allergies. So, dive in, Eric, and share a little bit about yourself, maybe something that most people would not know by looking at you right now.
Well, you wouldn't know by looking at me right now that I actually suffered some brain trauma about 3 years ago. Came to a near-death experience. Suffered with a bout of viral encephalitis, and that's just a big fancy word for swelling of the brain.
Mm-hmm.
So it affected my short-term memory, uh, moving forward, and let's see, at the time, it actually affected everything. I couldn't recognize anyone. I didn't recognize my wife or my kids. I didn't know my own name, where I was. I couldn't walk. I couldn't. I'd lost some of my motor skills, so I couldn't, like, for example, hold a spoon correctly to eat ice cream. And I don't know about you, but that's a travesty. If you can't hold a spoon to eat ice cream, then you know you're hurting. But that's something that people wouldn't know about me just by looking at me. So it was an awesome experience. I learned a lot from it, and I think it really just made me a better person overall because just having gone through that experience.
And see, and again, that's why when we had the opportunity to have a conversation, Eric, that the word optimism came up for me.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. You never know exactly how you're going to respond when things happen to you in life. However, as I listened to your story the first time, and I'm listening this evening, and those who will watch the replay, I can't even begin to imagine what that may be like. Because again, I don't know at what point that was, but I have to say definitely you had been married for over 2 decades, and not to be able to recognize your high school sweetheart, not to be able to recognize your children, to have to learn basically how to do all of the basic skills of life over again. To me, that takes optimism and faith.
Yeah. Great words to choose. I relied a great deal on faith. The interesting part about that is it affected my memory. So for an entire week, I do not have a single memory. So everything that I know about what I went through was because my wife was clever enough to film most of it, or my daughters filmed most of it. I would ask questions when I was recovering, and they would fill me in. Right? They would say, "Oh, you were doing this," or "Dad, you did that," and this is what happened. They gave me this series of events for an entire week. I actually do not have my own memory of that entire week, so it's really difficult. And even though I don't remember relying on optimism or relying on faith, I know that those things played a huge role in my recovery and being able to come out of it. The interesting thing is when I found out what viral encephalitis was, all of a sudden, it's kind of like buying a car that you've never heard of before, and then you're driving your new car and you get on the freeway and then you see that car all over the place. Well, I was running into tons of people that had that knew someone that had suffered from viral encephalitis. For all of those people who were in my age group, none of them made it. So young children, when they get viral encephalitis, they usually don't make it, or people close to their 50s have a difficult time coming out of that. So I find I'm extremely fortunate and very lucky to be here today, and I just want to help people be optimistic. I want to help people live with faith instead of fear. And just be able to live their best lives and help them to become the person that they want to become. And I'm just grateful for the opportunity that I have to be here with you tonight and just really to just be around because it could have gone the other way.
Okay, and you said so many golden nuggets, and I definitely want to. We're going to move forward in a moment and talk about your book, because you said something key about how you want to help people to have a life that they imagine, and that's actually the name of the book that you wrote, was
Yeah.
Live the Life that You've Always Imagined. Here's the thing: talking about being optimistic, talking about having that level of faith, that even though you didn't have a memory of what you went through, basically what I'm hearing is that you went kind of like on autopilot, because you it wasn't this incident that produced your faith and optimism. Reading through your book and having a conversation with you, you are a risk taker, and what we know is that risk takers by nature are optimistic.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit about where you develop that skill of being optimistic and being willing to just go for something even in the face of adversity.
Yeah, great question. I think it happened early on in my life. So when I was 9 years old, I moved from Chile, South America, for any of you who don't know where that is. I moved from there with my family to Utah, where my maternal grandparents lived. And it all kind of started from there. So I had some experiences that made me think about my future. Experienced racism for the first time, as an example. Experienced things like people telling me that I wasn't smart, or because I didn't speak the language, or because I learned differently. People would make judgments, and I just thought, you know what? I can either do one of two things. I can either decide today that I'm going to give in to their perception of me or their judgment of me, or I am going to blaze my own path. And I decided to take a risk and blaze my own path, regardless of what other people thought of me, or I just didn't care. And I figured if I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail on my terms, not yours. If I'm going to not achieve something, it's because of what I've done. So it happened early on in my childhood. I would say probably around 12 years old when I had that realization. And since that age, I literally have blazed my own path. You could talk to my friends, my brothers and sisters, my parents. They'll tell you that I did not do things sometimes the easy way or the conventional way, because I was more interested in living a fulfilling life and kind of doing it my way.
Wow.
So it happened at an early age, and I'm just so grateful for that, because I could have given into the other, and then I would have probably lived a life of misery because I would not be happy because of somebody else. So when I was about 13, somebody said, "Eric, you don't need to prove anybody wrong. You just need to prove yourself right."
Ooh, I like that.
Because
I like that.
I know, right?
Right.
It probably took me a couple of years to figure that out, because when I was 15, I remember thinking, well, what happens if I prove everybody wrong? Then what? Like, where's my motivation then? Right? And so it really made sense to me. You don't have to prove anybody else wrong. You just have to prove yourself right. And that has served me so well throughout my life. I can't even tell you how great that phrase or that quote has been.
Awesome. And another one of because I'm certified through the multi-health systems for my emotional intelligence, and it's broken down into 5 competencies, and then it breaks down further into 15 skills. And so the skill we're talking about tonight is optimism, but another skill is independence. And as I'm listening to you talk, I believe that you obviously lived in a family where that was fostered, to be independent. And a lot of times people think of independence as a bad thing. However, independence is a skill that can be used, as you said, to prove yourself right, to be able to, in the face of adversity, looking at racism, sexism, and all the different isms that permeate the workplace in our world, and being able to say, you know what, you don't get to define who I am. I get to define who I am. And that is a spirit of independence that serves us well on a personal level as well as a professional. And
Yeah.
so I know that you go in and you provide training and consulting with companies. So let's kind of shift that into the work that you do with companies. Or do you do work around diversity?
Correct. Yes. Do a lot in that area, because a lot of organizations want to have diversity, but I know a lot of companies don't know how to go about doing that, right? And so and sometimes they're afraid. Are they going to do it right? Are they going to do it wrong? And again, it goes back to that being optimistic that, regardless of how you do it, you're going to make mistakes
Yeah.
along the way. And so it's not about the mistakes that you're going to make. It's the things that you're going to learn from those mistakes, and then being able to grow and continue to develop, developing your people and helping your people grow in an organization. Those are some of the things, the principles that build winning cultures,
Mhm.
right? The more diverse you are, in thought, in the way people look, backgrounds, whatever, that just helps you to create a winning culture, because you have outside voices, you have outside opinions, different ways of doing things, different ways of looking at things, and that can only strengthen an organization if done correctly.
Awesome. So let's say that, as someone is watching this replay tonight, next week, a month from now, and maybe they have been charged with, delegated to identify someone in the space of diversity, equity, and inclusion, or maybe to work with an up and coming leader around being authentic, independent. What would be the conversation that you would have with them uh, for that executive or that up and coming leader who is dealing with issues around diversity, equity, and inclusion, and also walking in their own, being authentic, learning how to prove themselves right?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, one of the things that we say at the Aroca Group is, leadership starts with the individual. It doesn't come on a business card. It doesn't come with the promotion. It doesn't come with a title. It's an individual thing. So I think a lot of times, a lot of companies make the mistake of promoting the high performers. Like, I come from a sales background. I spent 25 years in corporate America in sales, and I've sold just about everything that there is out there. I was even a drug dealer for 5.5 years. That's another story.
Okay.
I work at Pfizer. Let me just.
I was like, make it plain, make it plain.
I gotta clarify. Okay, but one of the mistakes that they would make, for example, is that they would promote the high performer, the salesperson with the best numbers. Now, there is some good in that, but what do we know about salespeople? For the most part, we're greedy. We're not going to, if you promote us to a management position, we're not really, our emotional intelligence is not really cued on helping others succeed. Because what's made us successful, we want to keep that to ourselves because that is our competitive advantage, right? So those people usually do not make the best leaders. They do not make the best managers, district managers, regional managers, vice presidents, whatever the title is, because they're self-absorbed. Okay, so leadership starts with the individual. So I would look for people who have leadership qualities. Instead of performance, I would look for leadership characteristic, leadership qualities. Are they willing to be vulnerable? Do they have all the answers? If you tell me that somebody has all the answers, I'm going to look at the next person, because no one in life has all the answers, and no one can relate to someone that has all the answers. So that's just something that you want to look for. Do you want to go with somebody that can build trust, as an example? Somebody who communicates openly, right? So you want to look for qualities of a leader, not of a high performer. And the more companies can do that, the more successful they will be in promoting the right leaders, to have good leaders in leadership roles. If not, then you're always going to be, fighting an uphill battle, because you're going to be turning those managers or those leaders over pretty consistently, because they just don't perform in the capacity that you're looking for. Not that they can't change, but it's going to be really, really difficult for them to do that.
Okay, you have touched on something, and we've got like a whole 10 minutes left, but you have really touched on something, Eric, because here's the thing. I think, my background is nonprofit, so not that high performance driven sales. However, I think that there is a commonality across all industries is that the people who usually get promoted, it is based on performance. So you're going opposite of the grain when you say that may not be the person to put in a leadership position just because they are a high performer. And if you think about it, when people are talking about coaches, or when people are trying to sell their coaching programs and things of this nature, they'll say this is for high performance coaches, this is for high performance sales leaders. And so, but what you're saying is that those two things can really be counterproductive: leadership and high performance. Correct. So what might be one answer to that? How can we make that high performer also be someone who has the potential for effective leadership?
Yeah. So if they have one, and I'm not saying that performers are not great. I mean, they're great. They do a valuable thing, right, for organizations. And it's not to say that all high performers don't work out, but you want to look for leadership qualities. Do they have certain leadership qualities? If they do, then yeah, they might be able to transition pretty well. But one of the things that corporations or companies can do, organizations can do, is to provide leadership training. That's what they need. You need to be able to provide the leadership training so that they can learn the skills that they're lacking. And then I would go with their strengths. So if they can continue to live in their strengths as a leader, then they're more than likely to be successful. If they're always working on their weaknesses as a leader, they're never going to be what you want them to be, because they're too busy working on what doesn't make them successful.
Right.
So have those leaders or those future leaders work in their strengths. As they work in their strengths, they will raise their weaknesses, not the other way around. So those are just some simple things that organizations can do to try to ensure that they're building future leaders. But it really starts with just looking at characteristics. And I can't give you the characteristics that work. Every organization has a different set of values for their leaders. And so you really have to be paying really close attention to your values as an organization. Does that leader or future leader, do they hold those same values? If they do, then they're going to be teachable. You're going to be able to coach them. They're probably going to take that feedback and implement it, which is a beautiful thing. That's what we want.
Awesome. And you said some very key things there. So to be a high performer who is also teachable, coachable, and really being able to develop one's communication and interpersonal skills.
Yeah.
Along with being able to also constantly push the envelope to make the sales, to make the connections, whatever is going on in that particular industry.
Correct. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, we are, I believe it's 75 days, if I'm not mistaken, away from launching into 2023. We are in fourth quarter. And so talking about optimism, whether you have had the best year ever, or if you're like, is 2020 over yet? How do you maintain that momentum as we finish out this year and move into the new year? So I'd like for you to close us out. You talk about in your book, Live the Life That You've Always Imagined. You talk about four core principles that you live by. So I'd like for you to share those with our audience this evening, those four core principles. So I'm going to turn it back over to you to share those four core principles.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, so like you said, fourth quarter coming up, looking at the new year, or even finishing off this year. So these are the four core principles that I have lived to help me achieve everything that I've ever wanted to achieve in life, including marrying my sweetheart. Okay? So this goes for everything in your life. Core principle number one, and is the most important principle, is to dream more. Okay? And I'm not talking about pie in the sky type of dreaming, your head's in the clouds. I'm talking about having big dreams. The quote says, or the old adage says, if your dreams don't scare you, your dreams aren't big enough. So I want you to shoot for the moon, the stars, whatever that big dream is for you. Maybe for yourself is to achieve a sales goal or to grow your business by X%. I want you to think big, dream big, visualize yourself achieving that goal. When I was in my 30s, I went to college. I'm a late bloomer. So I went to college in my 30s. I was told my whole life that I wasn't smart enough to go to college. I was told college is for smart kids. Mm-hmm. So you know already what kind of challenge I had going into college. But remember, I'm an optimist. So I knew I was going to do it. So what was my dream? To reach and graduate, right? To go through that 4 years and graduate, receive that degree. So I dreamt it, but I visualized it. I would see myself walking across the stage, getting my diploma. So if you can see it, you can achieve it. So I want you to dream big. In whatever aspect of your life you need to dream in, dream big. Okay? Principle number two is to learn more. We should be on a consistent journey to learn as much as we can. There's an old quote by Einstein that says, when you stop learning, you start dying. And so, see behind me?
Yep.
All the books. So this is just a few of the books that I've read, right? I love reading. Yeah, you too. Good job. So I love to read. But this comes from a guy who couldn't read, who in 12th grade was reading at a third grade level because of dyslexia. I didn't find out I had dyslexia till I was in my 30s. Okay, so dream big. I was going to learn how to read. I could see myself reading books. Okay, now look behind me. I mean, hey, I've done it. I had a goal.
And wrote one.
There you go. I even wrote one. Can you believe it? A dyslexic wrote a book. Okay, so I want you to learn more. Become the subject matter expert in something in your life. So when your friends and family have a question about that thing, you are the person that they turn to because you are the expert, because you have taken the time to learn everything there is to know about that thing. Okay? Step number three, or principle number three, is to do more. Now, whenever I talk about doing more, people get scared. You should see, I can see their eyes and they're like, what are you talking about? I've already like overbooked myself and I'm overscheduled and I can't add another thing to my already overflowing plate, Eric. I'm not talking about adding stuff to your life. I'm talking about doing more of the things that make you successful. Okay, one of the things that helps make me successful is reading. I love to read. I love to learn. So it helps to make me successful. Speaking. If I'm not speaking, I don't know what I'm doing, right? Because those are things that help me be successful. So you need to figure out what are the things in your life that help you to be successful. And I want you to do more of that so that you're living in your strengths 80% of the day. The other 20% are your weaknesses. You just need to know that they exist. Okay, yeah, I know. They're over there. Okay? But I want you to live in your weaknesses because then you'll elevate your I want you to live in your strengths because it'll elevate your weaknesses.
Yes.
Okay? All right. Step number 4 is kind of, it just kind of happens to a degree because you've lived the first 3 steps. So if you're dreaming more, if you're learning more, and you're doing more, guess what? You're simply going to become more, which is step number 4. So I want you to become the person you want to be. When I went through my near-death experience, I had a reevaluation in the hospital. I couldn't sleep at night. I for 2 nights in a row, I did not sleep, not even an hour, not 5 minutes, because I was going through this reevaluation that I needed to become the person that I wanted to become. I wasn't there. And I needed to make some changes in my life in order for me to become that person. I can tell you now, 3 years later, that I am a lot closer of becoming that person because I did that self-evaluation, because I could see that I wasn't becoming the person that I wanted to become. So I want you to become that person. You change whatever it is you need to change in your life so that you can become that person, because it is well worth it. You're going to live a happier life. You're going to live a fulfilling life. You're going to live an enriched life. You're going to have a huge impact on other people's lives. And who doesn't want to have an impact on other people's lives? I want to have a great impact on my grandkids, on my kids, on my spouse, on my friends. Live the 4 core principles. There's so many excuses in life. Oh, I'm too old. I don't have enough money, this and that. You fill in the blank. But the reality is you are the one who's in control to live the life you've always imagined.
Exactly. Wow. Good stuff, Eric. And what comes up for me, I am running a uh, mastermind group. Got a group of individuals that I am working with them all the way through the end of the year. It's called the 100-Day Dash. So we started on when it was 100 days left in this year. And so each morning I share with them an affirmation or a thought. And the thing that came up on Monday as our theme is to make the decision. And everything that you've just shared is about making a decision, that optimism is a decision. We have a choice every single day. And I know it's very cliche. However, it is so true. We have the decision to decide whether the bottle is half empty or half full. And here's the thing. I believe that you are successful in what you do because you have made the decision. You made the decision that no, English is not my first language. You made the decision. Wow, these words seem to be moving around on this paper. So I'm going to push even harder. You made the decision to go to school at 30. You made the decision to walk and to learn to do the basic life skills. You made the decision to move to another state. And now you've made the decision to what? To take on a wonderful leadership role with the National Speakers Association. You made the decision to start your own business.
Yeah.
All of that is choosing to make a decision. And that is what cultivates optimism.
Yeah. I think the more optimistic we are, the more prepared we will be when opportunities come our way. Yeah. Because the funny thing about opportunities is you're either ready for them or you're not. There is no middle ground. There is no sitting on a fence. You're ready or you're not. You know what? I want to be ready. I want people around me to be ready for opportunities to come their way because I want to celebrate those opportunities with them. Right? That's what it's all about. Make the decision today to be optimistic, to tell a different story. If you've lived whatever life you've lived and you're not happy with it, well, start telling yourself a different story because it'll catch on. People will start to see it. People will start to hear it, and people will start sharing your story because you decided to be optimistic and take a different course in your life.
Love it. Love it. Well, I thank you for taking time away from your family this evening to have this conversation. My hope is that those who watch the replay will be just as blessed and gain as much value as I have this evening. Any final words that you want to say?
You know what? Just thank you so much for having me. It is such a pleasure. I've loved getting to know you. I can't wait to continue to build a relationship with you over time, and just really looking forward to it. And to everyone out there that's going to listen to this or is listening right now, go make it happen. Go live the life you've always imagined. It's up to you.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to bring you down to the virtual green room. Don't go away. I always like to do a quick debrief. I'll be with you in less than 30 to 45 seconds. Okay?
Sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you for being with us this evening. Thank you to those who will watch the replay. Another episode of Let's Talk EQ. Let's talk about emotional intelligence and make it applicable. So hopefully this evening you got some amazing information that you can apply this. Oh, we had someone there, April Wiggins. Make the decision. That resonates with me. Thank you for watching, April. I appreciate you. Yes, make the decision. It is about optimism. We have the choice as to whether or not we will stop or we're going to keep moving forward. So thank you so much, April, for being here this evening. And I also want to leave with the quote by Aroca, which was simply, prove yourself right. And that's also a part of optimism. Not worrying about the naysayers, not worrying about the conditions that are going on around you, making the decision to what? Decide to move forward and prove yourself right. All right, this is Thecia Jenkins, and I'll see you next time on Let's Talk EQ.